Hey you guys, so doing this little competition with Delicacy and gave us some ingredients from their pantry. We got to choose a couple extras, competing against two other amazing chefs, and seeing what we came up with is super exciting. So I'm really glad that you guys are here to watch. So I'm going to show you a little bit about what I came up with. Usually I'm doing Italian food and pastas and all that kind of stuff, but in the spirit of right now and having comfort food be a number one in the forefront of our minds, for everyone, I wanted to execute something that you could do at home and with things that you probably already have at home. So I'm making a lobster congee, and I'm gonna show you a little bit of my setup right now. All right guys, here's my setup. I have my trusty mandolin. If you guys don't have one, I would suggest getting one. They're amazing and make knife work and prep for food, for dinner, and all that good stuff. Really easy. We have a little mirin, a little red boat fish sauce, lemon olive oil from Delicacy, a little parsley yellowfoot mushrooms. There are also from Delicacy, and then we have some cherry tomatoes, my all-time always favorite addition, some black truffle powder. So this was freeze-dried and they're black truffles from summer. A little bit of baby kale, pickled yellowfoots. So I took these guys and I pickled them with a little bit of onions and mustard seeds, and I'll go through that. Scallions, green onions, and then I have my congee cooking right here. You really will never overcook this. You can cook this forever. So this is something you'll do ahead of time, just like the pickled mushrooms. And then I have my little lobster setup right here. So we have a little butter getting a little hot again, and then the claws and the knuckle meat, and then we're gonna go into the whole plating and prep of everything. But really that's it. All right guys, so let's talk about the congee first. So congee is basically gruel. So you're gonna take any rice that you have. It was typically made with white sushi rice, but I use brown rice. And you're gonna cook it for probably about 1.5 to 2 hours. Don't worry, we'll get you all the recipes after this. But I cooked it with chicken stock that I made, that I had in house from a chicken that I roasted last week. I froze all the stock that I made with the bones, and then I'm able to use that with brown rice. And I had about a couple bags of brown rice, and I said, why not? Most people have rice in the house, so you can use brown rice, you can use jasmine rice, you can use sushi rice, you can use really any rice that you have in the house. So I thought that that was something that was appropriate to use and do for this little challenge. So congee, cooked it in chicken stock, about 7 cups of chicken stock to 1 cup of rice, and you're gonna yield something that is about a quart of rice. So a pretty fair amount. And congee's delicious. You can really add anything. So what I added were the mushrooms, right? So I pickled those. The pickling process, also you're gonna get the recipe after this, but pickling, I had pickling liquid that I had left over from pickling something last week, and then, I added a few more spices like cinnamon, and then used my mandolin for half of a white onion and added that in. And so, I heated up all that pickling liquid again. There's gonna be rice wine vinegar, water, sugar, salt, pickling spices, a cinnamon stick, bay leaves, and then I had some mustard seeds laying around. You don't have to add those, but I love a little bit of mustard in my pickles. So I used that, and I brought that all up to a boil, cooked my mushrooms really hard in a frying pan, and then poured those into a cup with the onions raw, sliced half moons, and then poured the hot pickling liquid over it and let it sit overnight. So you let that sit in the fridge overnight, and the next day you pull them out and they're pickled and they're amazing. The congee is also something you can do ahead of time. You can cook that the day before. You can start that at lunchtime when you wake up in the morning. It's really something that just gets better as you cook it longer. You really want those grains to pop. You want them to kind of explode a little bit and let go of some of their starch, and that gives you that creamy texture that you're gonna get in your congee. That probably you're gonna see when you Google congee and what is this. So next up, the things that you're gonna have to do a la minute or to order. the day of, right before you're about to serve, is definitely gonna be the lobster. So lobster little setup. Let's do a little switch on the camera so you can watch this. All right guys, so we have our lobster here. Do a little seasoning on there. And then we have our butter, okay? So we want this butter. Basically, you wanna bring it to a boil right before you add your lobster, because then you're gonna turn off the heat. And I'll show you how to do that. This is about 1.5 sticks of butter. So I'm gonna drop all of the lobster in. And then when all the lobster's in, I'm gonna kill the heat. I'm gonna turn it to off, okay? So the reason for this is it's really sensitive, okay? Lobster, the last thing you wanna do is overcook it. It's a, expensive product. So we wanna make sure we take care of it. But as you can see, the heat's already off and it's still bubbling. So once you see it start to cook on those knuckles a little bit, you want to flip those knuckles. One-handed champion. Flip these guys. They're definitely going to need some more time. So I'm going to let them sit there for a minute. Ideally, you want to make sure that those big claws are totally submerged under the butter. Right now, they're just going to sit there and they're going to hang out and cook all the way through. So here we have our congee. So you can see when I make chicken stock at home, I don't skim it. I like that fat. So it's going to have a little bit of skin fat in there, but that's what gives it all that amazing flavor. And you see how creamy this is? I've probably cooked this for at least 2 hours. And you can add water, but you want to make sure that it has like a really nice velvety texture. Honestly, I'll probably add a little water before we plate. So we have that. And then we have, a little knife fork. So for the pickles, you can pickle anything for congee. It could just be onions. It could just be red onions. There's a lot of options here. You can pickle radishes, but the pickle element is something, when I was introduced to congee, was really amazing, and, took something that was maybe peasant-like and elevated it by doing something like pickling this. I've pickled shrimp for this before. That was actually the first time I had it. But definitely a trusty thing is always having green onions with it. So we're just gonna cut up a little bit of those. This is something, it can stand in for regular onions. This can stand in for, a stock. If you're making a stock with regular onions and you just have green onions, that's fine. And I like to just use the tops. It's gonna be a garnish. Then we have parsley for garnish, tomatoes for garnish, and I'm gonna add a little bit of truffle powder to the congee. So the truffle powder is basically for, elevating that element of mushroom that we're bringing with the pickles. So you can kind of, tag team that flavor profile a little bit. So we're gonna take a little bit of this. We're just gonna mix this in. Okay. On the finish, we're also gonna add a little bit of fish sauce. It's gonna be a little dash. And mirin, which is one of my favorites. It says rice cooking wine, but it's sweet and it just has such an amazing umami that, a lot of people don't know about unless maybe you work in a restaurant. But if you do know about it, I hope you use it all the time. It's amazing for dressings and it's amazing for, giving that extra level of flavor into a dish. And, it's such an amazing ingredient to have at home. you remember it, you have ramen, you have some bone broth that you want to drink, and you add a little bit of mirin and fish sauce, and you are a happy camper. So, congee looks to be about ready. I'm gonna taste it real quick. Awesome, tastes great. I love the texture. And with brown rice, you also get like a really nice texture. So let's do a little plating. All right, so we are ready to plate. We're ready to put this guy together. So I'm gonna take all this lobster out of the butter. You bring it up to a boil, you put the raw lobster in, and then you turn off the heat. And it should be perfect by the time you're ready for it. You wanna be really delicate, and that slow poach in butter is exactly what it needs. So I do a fun thing, and I take all the butter, not all of it. I take the butter that I had from poaching, and I add a little bit to my congee. A little bit of fat, never hurt. All right. So I think we're close here. Congee looks great, nice and creamy. The lobster is ready to go. We're gonna change up the little camera angle again and get you guys into where I'm plating, okay? All right, so got a plate ready. I always use a bowl. I'm gonna put a couple scoops down. It almost is like risotto to me. Like the consistency is really everything. Shake it out a little bit, level it out. And then we're gonna put down some cherry tomatoes and some kale. The kale from the heat of the congee will wilt, so you don't have to worry about that. There's a little bit of lemon juice on there on those leaves. Then we're gonna put down some cherry tomatoes. Remember, you can make congee for anything. It's a great base. Use all the extra greens you have in the house. Use all the mushrooms that you have in the house, all the herbs, you know. We're gonna throw herbs on top. And then we're gonna have a few of these mushrooms. I really like pickled mushrooms, so I'm gonna go a little heavy right here. And then the star of the dish, we're gonna put some lobster. And I like the big chunks. You know, it's a luscious ingredient. You want it to be really luscious. You can leave that off. And then the classic finish. And then this gorgeous Texas olive oil, lemon olive oil. Guys, there you go. There's congee with lobster, cherry tomatoes, kale. There's truffle in the congee itself. The brown rice is a beautiful texture. The lobster is softly poached. The mushrooms have been pickled in a beautiful pickling liquid with a little bit of onion. You know, there's crunch, there's sour, there's sweet, there's fresh. It's something that you can make at home, and I hope you do. So thank you for, you know, hanging out with me and watching this through. And if you're at this point, I love you so much. Please vote, and you know, thanks again, and I hope you're doing well, staying home, staying safe. Please reach out if you need anything. Love you out there. Bye.